I'm Jen, your local New York City guide, and the number one question everyone asks me is, what is your all-time favorite thing to do in New York? Okay, maybe I can't narrow it down just to one thing, but I've narrowed it down to my top 11 things. If you only have a few travel days, these are my favorite things to do and see in New York City. Please don't forget to click the subscribe, like button, share it with friends if you enjoyed this video, and I have a whole blog post with more information linked down below. Okay, let's go. Number 11, Washington Square Park. The first park many visitors think of when visiting New York City is often Central Park, which is amazing, don't get me wrong, but some parts can be a little touristy and it is so huge, it is impossible to see it all. Visit Washington Square Park to see how locals and students gather to sunbathe, enjoy street performers, or just take a photo with the arch. It was featured in my favorite TV show, Mrs. Maisel, showing an important historical protest against the roadway expansion that successfully stopped traffic from going through the park. Morning light is always my favorite here, but visit later in the afternoon to watch the park come alive with street performers and musicians entertaining visitors. Even when it's crowded, it's worth a visit. My favorite time of year here is definitely spring, when the magnolia trees are flowering right next to the arch and everyone is out enjoying the park. Number 10, Times Square. Times Square is a love-hate relationship for any local or onlooker. It is a must-see for a first-time visitor, but it depends on the person and how long you can stand some of the crowds and people asking for money. I highly recommend visiting for at least 20 minutes to marvel at all the lights and craziness that is Times Square. There is no bad lighting in Times Square except maybe midday when shadows can be harsh. It's great to see during the day or even at night with less crowds when it's hard to tell it's even dark outside, since this area is still all lit up by billboards. Number 9, Flatiron Building. Since I've worked in 2 offices in this area and even lived on 23rd Street, I know the Flatiron District well. I even made an entire video about it. No matter how many times I walk past this uniquely shaped Flatiron building, I can't stop taking photos of it or enjoying new angles. This is one of the few places I would recommend you do not shoot early in the morning, but instead go at midday when the sun is behind the building and creates a flare of light at the right angle. I've shot this many mornings, and even though it can be a little less crowded, the light moves quickly and hits the left side of the building with some jagged, harsh shadows of the buildings in front of it. Number 8, the New York Transit Museum. The next 4 seem to have a train or transportation theme. The New York Transit Museum is one of the lesser-known museums, but is great for kids and adults who especially love New York City history and trains. Learn about the evolution of the subway map or why they got rid of tokens. My favorite part of this has to be that you can step right onto historic trains in the basement of this old subway station. If you ever ride a nostalgia train during the holidays, these are the trains that they put in service during those weeks. I love laughing at the dated advertising and seeing firsthand how the train seats, handles, and overall design changed so much from decade to decade. Since the entrance to this museum is just like a subway entrance, a stairway down into an old subway station, lighting is not an issue. I would recommend avoiding school hours, as when I visited, there were a number of kids. My favorite time to visit is actually about 1 to 2 hours before they close. When most people are leaving, you can feel like you have the whole place all to yourself. Number 7, enjoying the skyline from the water, on the Staten Island Ferry or the classic Harbor Line cruises. The Staten Island Ferry is completely free and one of the best views of this Manhattan skyline and Statue of Liberty. The best time to ride it is sunrise or sunset. Keep in mind, it can get crowded for sunset. I also have an entire guide of how to ride this and where to stand. If you're looking for a less crowded and more relaxed and comfortable option, take a ride on a classic Harbor Line cruise to get even closer to the Statue of Liberty. I love their classic style vessels and sailboats that offer a no-stress experience complete with drinks that is a highlight to any New York City trip. This is so worth buying a ticket for. This is one of my favorite experiences in New York. Number 6, Roosevelt Island trams. This is yet another unique form of transportation with gorgeous views of the city skyline. It is just one swipe of your Metro card to hop aboard one of these trams featured in the 2002 Spider-Man movie. I love doing this in early spring just as the cherry blossoms are about to bloom. Once bloomed, the island can get super packed with visitors, but it's still worth the visit. Most other seasons, it is almost completely empty, so flock here if you're looking for a peaceful walk with a view of Manhattan. The best light is at sunrise when the sun is setting behind the skyline, prominently featuring the Empire State Building, Chrysler Building, and the UN. Number 5, Grand Central. I've traveled through Grand Central more times than I can count, but every time I look up at the ceiling of backwards constellations or take a time-lapse video, I revel at its beauty. I've actually traveled through many train stations in the United States during my cross-country trip, but this is still my favorite. It is truly one of the most beautiful train stations, or rather terminals, in the United States, and perhaps the world. You can take photos and videos inside Grand Central, but if you want to use a tripod, you do need to get a permit at least 1 week in advance. The light is great throughout the day and especially nice during the late afternoon. To avoid crowds, do not go at rush hour when people are hurrying to work or the train to go home. Number 4, Top of the Rock.
One of the best observation decks in New York City for views of the Empire State Building and Central Park is Top of the Rock.
That photo everyone takes here with the Empire State Building in the foreground and the Freedom Tower behind it is a classic. This shot is so overused as stock photography. I think it must be the official view people think of when they think of the entire city. For something so hyped and such a familiar view, it is still so worth the visit. I love going high up in a tall observatory deck in any city while traveling, and this is my absolute favorite one in New York City. Since you can't quite see sunrise at the top of the rock due to their hours, the best time to go for the best light is sunset.
67 stories up, we are at the top of the rock right now with these gorgeous views at sunset. Definitely a reminder, you should come here a couple hours earlier because the lines will start to form and you will have a specific time that you are called to. Even if you get there maybe an hour before that time, I definitely recommend 2 hours.
It can get busy, but it is possible to get some beautiful shots of the skyline at sunset. If golden light is not a priority and you would prefer shots with less crowds, go early or late on a weekday. Number 3, Central Park boats. I admit it, I am not the best at rowing these boats, but there is something so special about taking a ride on the lake in one of these boats. It's great for a romantic outing or even a friend date. This is one of my favorite things to do in New York City, especially in the summer, as it is only available from April through November, weather permitting. The best lighting is usually in the late afternoon, but to avoid lines, go early. The boat rentals are first come, first served, so definitely get in line at 9:30 a.m. before it opens at 10 a.m. Number 2, City Hall. City Hall subway station was the first subway station in New York City, which opened in 1904 and was abandoned in 1945, but remains in almost pristine condition today. It was once considered the crown jewel of the New York City transit system with its vaulted ceilings and whimsical skylights. The semi-secret station has been featured in several films like the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. There are 2 main ways to see this station, for free through the windows of the 6 train, or you can purchase a membership and a tour through the New York Transit Museum. I love City Hall for its mysterious, abandoned beauty and how giddy it made me feel to stand in the first subway station in New York City. My 20 minutes in the station on the hard-to-reserve tour felt absolutely magical and flew by. I went by myself since my friends didn't want to pay about $100 to go, which is understandable, and I set up my tripod and frolicked in my red dress for this video and had so much fun seeing this station in all its glory. You cannot fully avoid crowds as these tours often sell out. But if you are on a tour, you can usually find windows of time when certain areas are less crowded to take a photo of yourself without others in the background like I did. If you do not have time and budget to purchase the membership and tour, you can see the station for free by staying on a downtown 6 train as it takes a U-turn to travel back uptown. For the best lighting, go during daylight hours when the sunlight peeks through the skylights. The only time the lights are turned on in the station are during tour days, so you can also look up the tour schedule online and stay on the train on a tour day to see it more lit up. Number 1, the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is a New York City icon. Built in 1869, it has seen so much, even the crossing of 21 elephants. The Brooklyn Bridge is one of the best photo locations and just a feel-good activity to walk across it and take in the skyline views. Similarly, one of my favorite things to do in San Francisco was walking across the Golden Gate Bridge. Bridges often have the best view of a city, and walking across them forces you to slow down and appreciate new angles of a city skyline. I love the Brooklyn Bridge not only for its historic significance and its symmetrical beauty, but also for how I feel when I walk across it at sunrise when it's almost empty and you fall in love with New York all over again. I have a full video on the best ways to walk across it, which direction is best, the history, and how to avoid the mistakes most visitors make. The best way to walk across the bridge is starting on the Brooklyn side, walking to the Manhattan side at sunrise when there is significantly less people and there is golden early morning light. Sunset is another great time for beautiful shots and silhouettes of the bridge, but can sometimes be shoulder to shoulder crowded, especially on a weekend.
Thank you so much for watching. Please click the subscribe, like button, and share it with friends if you enjoyed this video. And keep watching. I have a ton more videos. I have a blog post with all the details linked down below. As always, say yes to new adventures, and I'll see you next time. Bye.